In opposition federally and in most of the states, now is the time for the Liberal Party to think about its core beliefs and how to articulate them in a way that is relevant to younger generations. It's the time to develop the new policies that show the values of equality of opportunity, though not necessarily outcome, fundamental freedoms, strong families and fostering enterprise, offer practical solutions for the problems faced by modern Australia. It really is the most valuable thing that the opposition can do right now. That's how to develop a serious offering to Australians. Well, I'm pleased to say that David Stevens is a man who is doing a lot of that important work. David has had a distinguished career in Australia and overseas, and he's about to launch a new book called Dignity and Prosperity: The Future of Liberal Australia. It includes chapters from trusted minds like John Howard, John Anderson, David Kemp, Nick Minchin and Judith Sloan. And I'm pleased to say that David Stevens joins me now. David, thank you for making time to be on the program. What did you set out to achieve with this work?
Well, thank you very much, Amanda, for having me on your show this evening. The purpose of the book really is to look at where the Liberal Party and liberalism in Australia needs to focus to go forward. I think, like many other Australian Liberals, they feel that we've got to a point where socialism, collectivism, the radical neo-Marxist cultural agenda has become far too pervasive and is winning the battle. And the Liberals need to be able to respond, not just in opposing that creeping socialism, but also in putting forward a very positive agenda that future generations, the young in particular, but also a lot of the other people who have left the Liberal fold over the years, can then bring them back. And one of the things that we quote in here is Robert Menzies said in 1967 that the great issue to which liberalism must direct itself is socialism. And he said that in 1967, and it is as relevant today as it was back then.
Look, so many people are going to be really encouraged to know that this work's going on. But what are the themes that run through the contributions from the many distinguished writers who've contributed to the book? Are there common threads that can be brought together to put an agenda forward that will provide that prosperity and dignity for Australians?
Yes, there are. And there are a number of policy areas that come up that need to be addressed. If we go back to the Howard years in particular, which we focus on a lot, because that was a period of significant reform and success. The whole economic reform agenda, the industrial relations agenda, taxation reform, reducing government expenditure to sustainable levels, the importance of dealing with debt and deficit, which the chapter that Rod Kemp has written about that says that the issue of debt and deficit is not just one of practical outcomes and political expediency. It's actually an ethical issue. It's an intergenerational issue if we're going to burden younger generations with unsustainable debt and interest payments. That's going to deny them the other opportunities that we could be much better spending that money on, or better, returning it to them in the form of lower taxation to give them more incentive to work and save and achieve.
Well, there's a narrative emerging already from what you've just said that I think could really appeal to young people. Please continue.
So I was going to say some of the other areas that we touch on. Georgina Downer's chapter that looks at the enduring legacy of Menzies' views of liberalism. If we remember, Menzies was a great believer in home ownership and education and enterprise. And John Howard picked those same themes up when he was in office, and they're really important for us to develop policies today to put forward in the future to bring on young people to come back to the fold to support liberalism, which I believe ultimately is the most successful, the most dignified and practical approach to achievement in the country. But as we've also said in the book, and it comes up, it's also a moral issue in the sense that only through innate
I'm sorry, I've got to cut you off there, David. I beg your pardon. But that moral question is real. Thank you so much for your time tonight.